Good afternoon. No, it's still morning. It's a long session. So we've just had a council meeting where the Russians made the same allegations that they made last week. The UN was clear that there was no evidence. It was nonsense then. It's nonsense now. And as far as we're concerned, frankly, this is the disinformation of the desperate. Things are clearly not going well for Russia in Ukraine. The consequences, the humanitarian consequences are terrible. And we heard too about the wider economic consequences, for the global economy as food prices rise, and concerns about the integrity of international borders as well. And you all saw that Russia withdrew their humanitarian resolution yesterday. There was no one who was going to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine, because that's what that resolution was about. So I think we see Russia now as isolated, desperate, and we are looking forward to a more balanced discussion in the General Assembly where I think people truly understand the humanitarian consequences of this invasion.
Ambassador, do you feel that China is slowly shifting away from Russia in the Council?
So I think President Xi Jinping and President Biden have just had a 2-hour conversation. I haven't had a chance to catch up on that. I think China remains, as they've said all along, very keen for the invasion to end, for there to be dialogue. They obviously have a lot of hopes pinned on the 4 rounds of dialogue so far, concerned about the humanitarian consequences. I'm not seeing a big shift, but China was very clear today as well that they adhere to the Chemical and Biological Weapons Convention, and of course they experienced chemical weapons attacks themselves. So I think it's important when you look at that, countries that have experienced chemical weapons attacks, or as we in the UK have, we've seen them on our streets. We find it particularly egregious when others come with spurious claims about these very serious sorts of issues.
Ambassador, what do you think about Russia using Security Council on this matter?
Frankly, I think this is a perversion of the Security Council's purpose. First of all, there is no evidence. We heard that. Second of all, we discussed Ukraine yesterday. We talked about the war, its humanitarian impacts, its regional impacts, its international impacts. There are other items on the Security Council agenda. You know them well. Syria, Yemen, Myanmar, Afghanistan. These are issues that need our attention. We do not need to be spending our time on disinformation on a war that Russia has started.
Does the UK have any intelligence that Russia is planning a chemical attack?
We've, in unprecedented moves, have publicized a lot of the intelligence we have, and as have the Americans. We do remain concerned that there could be a false flag attack, and that a false flag attack could involve chemical and biological weapons. That remains a concern, but we haven't got published intelligence on that.
Madam Ambassador, what's your expectation for the humanitarian resolution in the General Assembly?
So my hope for the humanitarian resolution in the General Assembly is that we will see even stronger support than we saw for the resolution that condemned Russia's invasion. So we had 141 countries in support of that. I think as the humanitarian consequences of Russia's invasion have become clearer, not just the immediate humanitarian consequences for Ukraine, but the wider humanitarian consequences. Bread prices are going up, fuel prices are going up, commodity prices are going up. Countries whose citizens have already been hit by COVID, by climate change, now they're taking another economic and social hit because of Russia's war. So I think we will see a lot of countries concerned about this. And also, humanitarian aid now is thinly spread. There are a lot of demands between Ukraine, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Myanmar, conflict after conflict. So we could end this war and take away this humanitarian crisis.
When are you expecting a vote on the GA resolution?
I think it'll be really important for us to consult the whole membership on the GA resolution to understand how people are approaching this question. We've got 3 weeks into the war, 3 million refugees. We want to understand how people see it. But I think we need to move fast. The humanitarian situation is deteriorating fast. So I hope we'll move sometime next week. Thank you.
The UN representative said there's no evidence of a biological weapons program in Ukraine, but she also said that there's no capacity for them to investigate this. They don't have the capacity. Does that undermine the West argument when they say there's no evidence and point to the UN?
No, I don't think it does, because the point is that the CBW is the organization that needs to investigate those claims. So, if there is a genuine concern, the right thing to do would be to seal off the site, have a ceasefire, seal off the site, and then allow experts in to investigate. It is not the right thing to do to bring spurious claims to the UN Security Council, which are debunked by everyone there. No, thank you.
Could you describe the dossier the Russians sent you? Could you describe what was in it, what these alleged documents are? I mean, what does it look like?
To be honest, it's 69 pages long, and it does not deserve the time to read it. It's disinformation of the desperate. That's how I would describe it, to be honest. Yeah.
For the Ukrainian refugees that they are balking in Calais in France trying to get to the UK, is there any new programs offered, new visas offered for these refugees that they have? Also, a lot of them have family members residing in the UK.
So we have accelerated our refugee acceptance program in the UK. So now, if you are the immediate family member of a Ukrainian in the UK, you don't need to give biometrics. And that was one of the issues originally, because there was no place to give biometrics in Calais. They had to go to Paris or Brussels. So that's a much smoother process. We've got a process too whereby British families can host Ukrainian refugees, and I think we've already got about 11,000 families signed up to that in the first day. We're making provision for Ukrainian children to join schools so that they can come in as smoothly as possible. But we're also very mindful too that refugees can often be dispersed around, and then they become vulnerable to criminals and traffickers. So we want to make sure that we put in place protection for the refugees. That was something that came up in our discussions during the Commission on the Status of Women earlier this week, and I think is a very important point too. Right, thank you all very much. Have a good weekend. Thank you.